It's 3 a.m. The house is dark and silent, but your mind is screaming. You're replaying a conversation from a meeting yesterday, a single awkward phrase you used over and over again. You're analyzing every possible outcome of a decision you have to make tomorrow. You are exhausted, but you can't turn your brain off. If that feeling is familiar, you know what it's like to be trapped by your own thoughts. We often call it overthinking, but it's more than that. It's a destructive cycle of rumination about the past and anxiety about the future that leaves us paralyzed in the present. The common misconception is that this is just a sign that we're intelligent or conscientious. We tell ourselves, "I'm not overthinking, I'm problem solving. If I just think about this a little harder, I'll find the perfect solution." But here's the hard truth. Overthinking is not productive work. It is a cognitive trap. It's like revving a car engine in neutral. There's a lot of noise, a lot of smoke, but you're not going anywhere. It's a cage we build for ourselves, thought by thought. Today, we're going to talk about this specifically as it relates to men. We'll explore the 3 main loops of overthinking that men get caught in, understand the psychology of why it happens, and most importantly, get a set of practical, no-nonsense tools to get out of your head and back into your life. Pillar 1. The replay loop, rumination on the past. The first and most common form of overthinking is the replay loop. This is when your mind gets stuck on a past event, usually a perceived mistake or failure, and plays it over and over again. It's the mental equivalent of watching the same cringe-worthy scene from a movie on repeat, hoping for a different ending that will never come. Let's imagine a scenario that might feel very familiar. You're in an important meeting at work. You make a comment or a suggestion that doesn't quite land. It's met with a moment of silence, or your boss moves on a little too quickly. For most people, this is a minor, forgettable moment. But for the overthinker, the loop begins the second you leave the room. That night, you're trying to relax, but your brain is back in that conference room. Why did I say that? It sounded so stupid. Now they all think I'm an idiot. I should have just kept my mouth shut. I should have phrased it differently. I completely undermined my authority. You dissect every word, every facial expression. You analyze the moment from a dozen different angles, each one making you feel worse. You're not learning from the memory, you are being punished by it. This is rumination. The psychology behind this is often tied to a desire for control and a fear of judgment. By replaying the event, a part of your brain believes it is working on the problem. It thinks that if it can just analyze the memory enough, it can somehow undo the mistake or prepare for a future where it never happens again. It's a misguided attempt to control a past that is already set in stone. This is especially common for men who feel a pressure to always appear competent and in control. A perceived social misstep can feel like a major failure in that performance. Now for the critical lens. Is reflection on the past always bad? Of course not. Healthy self-reflection is how we learn and grow. The key difference is direction. Reflection moves you forward. Rumination keeps you stuck. A healthy reflection sounds like, okay, that comment didn't work. Next time, I'll try a different approach. It's productive and focused on future improvement. The replay loop is unproductive. It's a circular, self-punishing cycle with no exit. The long-term consequence of being stuck in the replay loop is devastating for your confidence. You become terrified of making new mistakes because the punishment for old ones is so severe. You may become quieter in meetings, more hesitant to share your ideas, and more risk-averse in your career and relationships. You become a prisoner of your own memory, constantly editing a past that cannot be changed at the expense of building your future. Pillar 2. The fortune teller loop, anxiety about the future. If the replay loop traps you in the past, the fortune teller loop traps you in a future that hasn't happened yet. This is the overthinking pattern driven by anxiety. It's the obsessive need to predict and control every possible outcome of a future event, almost always by focusing on the absolute worst-case scenario. Imagine you've just asked someone out on a date and they've said yes. The initial excitement lasts for about 5 minutes before the loop begins. Your mind becomes a movie director, but only for horror films. You start playing out every possible disaster. What will we talk about? What if there's an awkward silence? What if I spill my drink on her? What if she thinks I'm boring? What if she hates the restaurant I picked? This is going to be a disaster. I should just cancel. You aren't preparing for the date. You are forecasting its failure in excruciating detail. You're trying to solve problems that don't exist yet for a situation that hasn't happened. This is a common manifestation of anxiety, particularly for men who feel a pressure to perform successfully in social and romantic situations. The fear isn't just about having a bad date, it's about being seen as incompetent, uncharming, or inadequate. The psychology behind this is a misguided attempt to manage anxiety by gaining control. Your brain believes that if it can anticipate every possible negative outcome, it can prepare for it and won't be caught off guard. But it's a paradox. The act of constantly focusing on the worst-case scenario doesn't make you feel more prepared. It makes you feel more anxious. You are marinating your brain in the very stress hormones you were trying to avoid. Let's apply the critical lens. Is planning for the future a bad thing? No. Healthy preparation is productive. It sounds like, I should probably make a reservation and think of a few good questions to ask her. It is solution-oriented and focused on actions you can control. The fortune teller loop, however, is problem-oriented. It focuses on things you can't control, her thoughts, her reactions, the possibility of awkward silences. It's not planning, it's worrying disguised as planning. The long-term consequence of this loop is a life defined by avoidance. You might turn down amazing opportunities, avoid asking people out, or refuse to take on challenging projects, not because you can't handle them, but because you've already convinced yourself of your own failure before you even begin. You become so afraid of a hypothetical future failure that you guarantee a real present failure by never taking action at all. So, we have the replay loop stuck in the past and the fortune teller loop stuck in the future. Does one of those sound more familiar to you? Let me know in the comments which loop you find yourself caught in more often. Okay, let's talk about the final loop, the one that paralyzes us right now. Pillar 3. The Analysis Paralysis Loop. Getting stuck in the present. The third and final loop is the one that traps us in the present moment. It's called analysis paralysis, and it's the state of overthinking a decision to the point where you become completely incapable of making any decision at all. It's the ultimate mental gridlock, often born from an abundance of information and a fear of imperfection. Let's say you're looking to make a change in your career. It's a big decision, so you decide to be responsible. You start researching. You buy books, you listen to podcasts, you read articles. You make spreadsheets comparing salaries, benefits, and work-life balance for dozens of different career paths. At first, this feels incredibly productive. You're gathering data, you're being smart. But then, weeks turn into months. You now have so much information that every option seems to have equal pros and cons. The data is no longer helpful, it's overwhelming. Your internal monologue becomes a circular argument. Path A is more creative, but Path B is more stable. But what if I choose Path B and I'm bored? But what if I choose Path A and I fail? I should probably just do a little more research on Path C. You are no longer searching for clarity, you are hiding in the process of searching. The psychology behind this is rooted in the illusion of the perfect choice, which we've discussed before. You believe that if you just gather one more piece of data, you will find the single, flawless option with no downsides. But this is a myth. The other driver is a fear of accountability. As long as you are researching, you are still in a safe, theoretical stage. The moment you make a choice, you become responsible for the outcome. For men who feel an intense pressure to make the right decision as a leader or provider, it can feel safer to stay in the paralysis of analysis than to risk the responsibility of a real-world choice. Now for the critical lens. Is research a bad thing? Is being thorough a flaw? Absolutely not. The problem is not the act of analysis, it's the paralysis. A healthy approach involves setting a limit.
It sounds like, I will give myself 1 week to research my top 3 options, and then, on Friday, I will make a decision based on the information I have. This acknowledges that you will never have 100% certainty. You make the best choice you can with the available data and move forward. Analysis paralysis, on the other hand, is an endless quest for a certainty that will never come. The long-term consequence is a life of stagnation. Opportunities pass you by while you are still making your spreadsheet. You remain stuck in a job you hate or a situation you dislike, not because there are no good options, but because you are overwhelmed by the search for a perfect one that never existed.
So, why do our brains get stuck in these loops? It's often a misguided attempt to feel in control. When we are ruminating on the past, fortune-telling the future, or analyzing the present to death, our brain feels like it's working on the problem. It feels productive. But this is an illusion. It's a defense mechanism, particularly for men who are conditioned to believe they must always have a logical solution. The overthinking itself becomes a way to avoid the vulnerability of simply taking action and accepting an imperfect outcome. So, how do we get out of our heads? The solution is to learn to be a good bouncer for your own mind, deciding which thoughts get to stay and which ones have to go. The first step is the naming technique. The next time you find yourself in a loop, say it out loud. I am ruminating, or I am fortune-telling. The simple act of naming the pattern creates a space between you and the thought, reminding you that you are not your thoughts. The second tool is the 5-minute rule. Give yourself permission to overthink, but put a timer on it. For 5 minutes, you can worry, ruminate, and analyze as much as you want. But when that timer goes off, you must get up and do a different physical action for at least 2 minutes. Do the dishes, go for a walk, do 10 push-ups. This breaks the mental circuit and gets you out of your head and back into your body. And finally, for analysis paralysis, embrace the good enough decision. Instead of searching for the 100% perfect choice, aim for the 75% good enough choice that moves you forward. Action and adaptation are always better than perfect stagnation. Your mind is a powerful tool, but it's not always your friend. Learning to differentiate between productive problem solving and a destructive thought loop is a superpower. What's one thing you tend to overthink the most? Share it in the comments below. It helps to know we're not alone in our own heads. And if this was helpful, please subscribe for more practical guides to understanding your own mind. Thank you for watching.